Welcome to Real Talk with T&M. I'm Myranda. I'm one of the hosts. I also go by Myra, or M. And Tina, she's unfortunately unable to make it with us today. She's hoping to be back next month, so I'm keeping my fingers crossed. But when we designed our channel, we did this for a couple of years. We had talked about it. And the intention that we set when we designed this was that we wanted to help others with their mental health primarily. Both me and Tina have been through so much. I more so than Tina have had a lot of access to mental health therapies that a lot of people don't have the same access to. And so with my privilege that I've had, and Tina has worked in the mental health care field as well, between the both of us, we both wanted to share what we've learned, and we wanted to share tips that we've picked up throughout our journeys, because there's a lot of people who don't have that same opportunity and privilege that we've had. We've also wanted to help other people with their interpersonal relationships and with the relationship that they have with themselves. This has been so important to us because we know how much these things can better somebody's life, and everybody in life deserves to be happy. Everybody deserves to have a support system, to have friends and loved ones. And if we don't know how to be good to the people in our lives, if we don't know how to check our toxic traits and coping skills that we've learned, and we don't know how to incorporate better ones, we're not going to be good to the people around us. So if we teach people how to be better people, not just for themselves, but for the betterment of their relationships with others, and of course with the relationship with themselves, that we could see a lot of our community and a lot of the people who support us, our loved ones, our friends, our family, we could see their lives improve. And so that's a big reason why we designed our channel the way that we did. So if you want to keep up with us and our posting schedule and stuff, just subscribe and then turn on the notifications. And you can also follow us on our socials. I'm going to link those in the description box so you can keep up with us there. I really, really hope that you enjoyed today's episode. I've spent a lot of time thinking about what I wanted to do for today, and I've spent a lot of time writing out things that I wanted to share in particular. I got really lucky. Like I mentioned, I'm very privileged. I'll share this so that those of you who don't know can catch up with everybody who does. But in the fall of 2023, I had a severe mental breakdown, and I ended up needing some pretty intensive therapy. So I was able to go through 6 different Intensive Outpatient Therapy Programs. They're also abbreviated IOP. So in these IOP programs, I was able to learn so much therapy, and I'm gonna try and condense what I learned into 4 separate categories or concepts, I guess, that hopefully will be able to communicate things to you in a way that makes sense. Because this type of therapy in particular, I'll explain it in a minute, is absolutely life-changing, not just for somebody like me, but for other people. I have a mental diagnosis called borderline personality disorder. I don't like talking about it a lot. It's actually a very hard thing for me to do because a lot of people with borderline personality disorder are demonized. We're called monsters. People in the mental health care field don't like working with people who have borderline personality disorder for an array of reasons, which I understand, but it doesn't make it right. And people are scared of people with borderline personality disorder. So one of the therapies that is effective in treating borderline personality disorder is dialectical behavioral therapy, or DBT therapy. And a lot of what I'm going to talk about today is DBT therapy based, wrapped up in these concepts. So the first concept that we're going to talk about is radical acceptance. The second one that I'm going to incorporate is something that kind of plays into radical acceptance, which is the let them theory, which basically talks about like letting go, like why, how to, the importance of it. And lastly, I'm going to talk about the law of detachment. They all kind of, I guess, have the same underlying tone, but they each hold like their own unique aspects that I wanted to touch on. So when it comes to letting go, man, I struggled so much with this concept, especially in the past. But like when I got into therapy, it was hard. Like they sat us down and they, explained what radical acceptance was, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, what the fuck? Like, there's no way you expect me to do this. Absolutely the fuck not. And like, even to this day, there are still times it is so hard to put this into practice. For the longest time, I absolutely hated and loathed this concept. And I've become actually quite fond of it, even though, I have my moments. It's been one of the most life-altering concepts to incorporate into my life. Because the bottom line was, and is that I've always had a need for control. A lot of people do. My need for control was very overwhelming and very intense, because to me, control meant safety, and control was directly proportionate to my lack of trust, and it was driven by fear. So I clung to control. And when I learned that control is never achieved when it is sought after directly, it is only the outcome after letting go, I was just like, whoa, this doesn't make sense. Like, my brain is not computing. So I really dug in, and I really studied and researched radical acceptance, and then the other concepts that I mentioned, let them and letting go and the law of detachment. As those things came up for me, as I did look into things started making sense, and I started to utilize the tips that were given in each of those concepts, and I had to make a very intentional and conscious effort to practice radical acceptance. When you do that, you are learning to acknowledge and honor difficult situations and emotions that you feel, to fully accept things as they are instead of ignoring them or avoiding them or wishing that a situation were different, which is a very easy thing to get caught up in. And I think most of all that when you're practicing it, it's a critical step that helps you move through difficult experiences and it helps you to experience more meaning as you're moving through those experiences. So, as I mentioned before, radical acceptance falls under DBT therapy. DBT therapy balances change-oriented goals with acceptance to help people regulate their emotions, limit dysfunctional thinking, and improve their motivation. So, first of all, let's just clear the air really quick. When you hear radical acceptance, you're just like, ugh, sounds kind of iffy. Radical acceptance does not mean that you approve of a situation or that you necessarily found it acceptable for your life. That was a hard thing for me to get over, because I was just like, how are you not like practicing radical acceptance? It, like, you know, you have to accept it, and you have to be, you know, approving of it if you're practicing radical acceptance. That is not true. Radical acceptance also is not giving up, and it does not equal complacency. Rather, it's taking a compassionate, non-judgmental approach to your situation and your emotions, which will help ease your internal struggles surrounding your situation, and it improves the quality of your life. And I'm not bullshitting you. I'm not just saying this. There is actually scientific studies that have been done that show that practicing radical acceptance does improve the quality of your life. That being said, a lot of us spend tons of time and tons of energy trying to control other people, and we are emotionally affected trying to decipher their behaviors, and we fail to recognize that we don't have any control over them. Now, we were not put on this earth to control other people's actions. It's not your job to analyze people's behaviors and to jump to conclusions or to mind read about why they're doing what they're doing. Because the truth is, you're never going to know. You'll never truly know. And man, this was a hard one for me to accept. Now, in my research, this is where the let them theory comes into play. And letting them is so emotionally freeing. What it does is it allows other people to show you their true colors. And that is absolutely invaluable. That allows you to make better choices about the people that you want to keep in your life. And when you finally stop giving your power to other people, oh my God, man, do you get to see how much power you truly have? And your life will get so much better. I really didn't, like I mentioned before, I really struggled with this for a long time. And I sat there and I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's give this a try. Because what I've been doing obviously hasn't worked. So let's just give this a try. Let's put it to the test. And I started to understand and better incorporate radical acceptance in my life once I stumbled upon the let them theory. I came across it when it started rising in popularity. It feels like now everybody talks about it, but I would sit there and I found video after video in my social media feeds. And then for my birthday last month, I got Mel Robbins' gift as a birthday gift. And I was already obsessed with this concept by then. I had started merging the two concepts of radical acceptance and the let them theory. But when I got my hands on that book, I devoured that book. There are so many impactful things in that book. So I definitely 10 out of 10 recommend. It's a good read. Anyways, not plugging this or anything. But when it comes to letting them, ultimately it comes down to shifting your mindset. You are letting go of control over other people in relationships, decisions, and your life. So to practice letting them, there was some things that I had collected online of things that I should just let them do. So I wrote this down in my journal. I said, stop wasting your energy trying to control or change other people. Let them show you who they really are. If they want to leave, let them. If they don't support you, let them. If they don't invite you, let them. If they outgrow you, let them. If they break their promise, let them. If they minimize your worth, let them. If they mock your healing, let them. If they expect the old you, let them. If they, my goodness, if they lie about your history, let them. If they expect the old you, let them. I already said that. Don't know why that's in there twice. But obviously it was important. If they want to choose something or someone over you, let them. If they are okay with always putting themselves first, let them. If they want to judge or misunderstand you, let them. Let them treat you the way they treat you. Just let them. Don't try to fix, rescue, or save them. Whew, that was a really intense thing for me to understand that I needed to let them, because those are things in particular that were highly triggering for me. And I know they can be highly triggering for many people. But nonetheless, you have to learn to let go of what you can't control. Let those people show you who they truly are and not tell you who they are. Let them show you. Let them prove how worthy they are of your time and your energy. Let them take the necessary steps to be a part of your life. And let them earn your forgiveness and let them love you. See, I always thought that like let them kind of had like a negative thing about it. Like, oh, you have to let them do something negative to you. But also, you have to let them when it comes to positive things too. This one was a little bit harder for me. So when people tell me that they love me or they give me gifts, I have a very hard time with that, even still to this day. But more so, it was so heavy for me when I was in therapy for a few reasons. I have felt like I am a human grenade. And I had a very hard time accepting love, in particular, for this example. And I had to learn to tell myself that I don't have the right to tell people that they can or cannot love me. I have the responsibility of how I respond to that love. And I had the choice, and the healthiest choice that I could make would be to let them. So that was a big thing for me to realize that it's not just something that's applicable to negative situations or experiences, but it's also important to apply in positive aspects of our lives as well. So let me take a quick drink of my coffee here. Isn't this a cute mug? My friend gave it to me for Christmas. Anyways, gotta have a little bit of coffee because, coffee's great. So, okay, back to our little conversation. When you let them, you will find out everything that you need to know, and then you can choose what you want to do next. When you allow people to act how they want to, you will see if they naturally align with your energy, and then you can decide if those are the type of people that you want in your life. Letting them does not mean letting people harm you. Let me make this really crystal clear. Letting them does not mean letting people harm you. You don't have to tolerate mistreatment or abuse. I want that to be something that is made so clear. What it means is letting them be responsible for their own choices while you are responsible for yours. Letting go is not about having standards. It's about understanding which standards are yours to uphold and which are others' responsibility. You can release control without releasing discernment. And I think just that statement in and of itself, that is so important, because I used to interpret letting go and letting them almost like, oh, I just, I have to neglect myself to let them. And you don't. What is important when it comes to that is setting boundaries. Now let's talk about boundaries. I did not grow up in a home where I was allowed to practice boundaries. I was not taught about boundaries. In fact, I was told that they were bad, wrong, toxic. And as a result, I did not know I did not understand boundaries between other people. I did not know how to interpret them when people set them with me, and I did not know how to set them with other people. So I had to do a lot of research, and I had to really learn to understand what boundaries were. So the difference between boundaries and control is that boundaries change you, and control tries to change others. Boundaries are not about controlling others. They are about clarifying what you will or won't accept, and then it lets others choose how they'll respond. Setting boundaries is an act of self-respect. And I know that, like, for a lot of people who are also in the same situation as I have been in, learning how to set boundaries is intimidating. Like, you don't want to hurt other people's feelings, or you feel uncomfortable doing it. But the more that you practice setting boundaries, let me back up. I didn't know how to set boundaries in particular coming out of this mental breakdown that I had in 2023. Not just for the reasons that I just talked about, but also because when I had that breakdown, I literally, and I mean this, I literally lost my mind. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know what I needed. I had to spend an extraordinary amount of time really digging deep to figure out who the fuck I was. I had to figure out what I wanted. And I had to figure out what I needed. And I had to figure out what boundaries I needed to set in order to maintain a life that would give me what I needed and what I wanted. And I had to figure out those boundaries which were applicable to me, boundaries that I had to follow for myself, and I had to figure out boundaries that I would have to set with other people in my life. And after I figured that out, I had to figure out how I was going to enforce those boundaries. Because, you know, a lot of people also think that when you sit there and you set boundaries, you have to be harsh, you have to be mean, you have to be cold. And that's not the case. You really don't have to be harsh and cold and mean when you set a boundary with somebody. Because a boundary actually functions very much like a bridge to you. It gives people the blueprint on how to love you. And it's actually your responsibility. I didn't realize this. It is actually your responsibility to give people who want to love you and want access to you. It's your responsibility to give them the roadmap about how to love you in a healthy way and see if they're going to do so. Give them a chance to do so. Because if you don't, you're not jeopardizing. You are ruining a relationship. You are self-sabotaging ultimately by not allowing people to see that blueprint. And I'm not saying you have to be super vulnerable and like disclose a bunch of things so that people understand. You have to have standards. And you cannot expect other people to be able to mind read and to be able to know what your standards are for what you need for you. Because what I need to be loved and what I want to be loved is going to be very different from somebody else. Because not only are we living different lives, but my love language when I give love is different than what somebody else's love language is when they give love. So when they're giving love, my interpretation is going to be different because when I receive love, my love language of giving love and my love language of receiving love may not be the same. And in my case, they're not. So you really have to learn how to be somebody who communicates and somebody who is able to set those standards for people. And then you have to let them learn to love you. So now that I've had my little spiel, this was a quote that I wrote down, and it says, "The greatest gift that you can give someone is the freedom to be exactly who they are, not who you want them to be. Love is freedom, and if you try to control it, you'll surely destroy it." And I will say that if I was interpreting love from another person, how do I say this? Like when I'm with somebody, if I'm with somebody in my chosen family, if I'm with one of my friends, and I'm sitting there with them and I can be unconditionally myself, that makes me feel so loved. Just being able to exist in that person's presence without having to sit there and worry about being hurt by them or worrying about having to put up a facade or put on a mask. Knowing that when I'm with them, if they ask me how I'm doing, they're genuinely asking me how I'm doing. They're not just saying it just to, ask for the sake of, making conversation. To have that freedom, to be a free individual in a relationship, whether it's a friendship or a romantic relationship or a familial relationship, that type of freedom is truly a gift. And there's no better feeling than being freed. Like, it literally changes your whole world. I will say this. To truly let go when you are letting them, or you're practicing radical acceptance, you have to be willing to surrender to your consciousness and purely live in the present. This means no thoughts about the past, no thoughts about the future, just right now. You have to ground yourself in the present, and that will allow you to make decisions that are purely based on your intuition, which is a huge step towards enlightenment. And while you're in this process, you have to remind yourself that you are absolutely always enough, and that it's okay not to be everything to everyone. Don't waste your time, your energy, or your happiness trying to control things that you cannot control. Now, kind of shifting into the law of detachment, I wanted to touch on a couple things. When you hear the word detachment, it can be misunderstood. Again, like a lot of these concepts have a lot of misunderstandings and misinterpretations. So I want to clarify a couple things. Detachment does not mean that you don't need people, because we all need human connection. When I was in therapy, one of the biggest things that we really focused on was common humanity. Common humanity is having a support system. It is, by definition, like human connection. I will say that in my recovery, that having the support system that I had, and that I still have to this day, remains one of the biggest reasons that I was able to make the recovery that I did. Because when people deal with isolation, they're not as successful in their treatment programs. It causes a lot of depression. It causes a lot of trigger warning, suicidal ideations. And, you know, I'm sure everybody in this life that at least is listening to this podcast has dealt with feeling isolated. And we all know that that feeling doesn't feel very good. So let's be very clear. Detachment does not mean that you don't need people. Detachment means is that we don't base our definition of who we are on our attachment or lack thereof to someone or something. When we make it mean something about us, what you can do is you can remove someone from your life and still truly want what's best for them. And like, when you're detaching from that person, just because there is a distance or a detachment, that doesn't mean that hate has to fill that space. Detachment does not mean that you stop caring. It just means that you care so much about yourself that being attached to your inner peace is more important than anything. And that you love yourself before all, because you are the only thing in your life that will not leave you. And it took me a while to understand that part in particular, because when we hear that we need to love ourselves first, always, it comes off as sounding like, oh, be narcissistic, be selfish. And I don't think that that's what this is. Because like it says, like I said, you are going to be the only thing in your life that will not leave you. When I think back to my experiences, and I think about how I was the one who got myself every day. I got myself up every day and got ready. And I'm the one that got myself to show up to my therapy programs. I'm the one that sat through those programs for hours every day. I'm the one that came home and did the therapy homework. I'm the one that reached out for help. I'm the one that saved myself. Like, knowing that I am the one that didn't give up on myself, because I deserve to know what that felt like. I deserve to know what it felt like not to have somebody not give up on you. That really hit me really hard. And I just want to encourage you to practice self-love. If you want to talk about self-love with me because you don't understand it, or you need more tips about how to incorporate self-love or how to practice self-love, you can reach out to me on my socials. You can leave a comment below and ask me to make a follow-up video about self-love. It honestly, like, self-love is such a big topic, and it's hard for a lot of people to incorporate self-love into their lives. It's hard to understand, like, the concept as a whole, because it is so complex and it is a massive concept. So if that is something that you're interested in, either comment or reach out to me and we can talk. I'd be happy to do like a FaceTime call with you, or even just sit there and text back and forth, whatever you want to do. I would definitely be open to talking to you about how to incorporate self-love into your life. Now back to our little discussion. With detachment, it also does not mean that you are cold or unkind. Quite the opposite, actually. It means that your love stems from a place of authenticity. You come from a place of abundance. You understand how to feel complete on your own without needing external things to affirm your worth. Detachment is about experiencing our feelings without allowing them to control us. We step back and we look at things objectively. We let go and accept what we cannot change. We choose how we will act rather than just reacting. Detachment is about being able to live in the present without becoming emotionally attached to an outcome. The more you cling, the more you suffer. The harder you hold on to outcomes, people, or ideas, or how things should be, the more you lose your peace. That is a high cost to pay. Detachment isn't about not caring. It's about trusting. Trusting that you've done your part. Trusting that what's meant for you will find you. Trusting that you can let go without losing yourself. The law of detachment ultimately is freeing yourself from the need for control. That's what it always boils down to, is that need for control. Detachment doesn't mean indifference. It means being present, showing up fully, giving your best, and letting go of the grip on the outcome. Detach from the idea that your worth is tied to someone's opinion, that love has to look a certain way, from expectations that drain you. In that space of letting go, you can make room for miracles, for growth, and for peace. You don't lose anything by letting go. You gain freedom, you gain yourself, your power, and isn't that the most beautiful thing to hold on to anyways? The law of detachment is when you detach from everything and you attract everything. When you don't need anything, you gain everything. Don't force situations. Understand that what you want is not always what you need. Don't react, respond. Focus on efforts, not outcomes. Allow others to be who they are. Allow yourself to be who you are. Be patient with yourself. Learn that suffering is the refusal to accept what is. And I'll say that again. Learn that suffering is the refusal to accept what is. Learn to embrace that the only constant is change, and that security is an illusion. Let go of control. Focus on the present. Release expectations. Embrace impermanence. Observe emotions. Practice self-awareness. Set healthy boundaries. Trust the process. Detachment is the key to peace. Now, ultimately, between all four of these concepts, what resonated with me most, and what I'm slowly learning, is that even if I react, I won't change anything. Even if I react, it won't change anything. I can't change anything. My reaction won't change anything. It won't make people suddenly love me or respect me. It won't magically change their minds. Sometimes it's better to just let things be, to let people go, not to fight for closure, not to ask for explanations, not to chase answers, and not to expect people to understand where I'm coming from. I'm slowly learning that life is better lived when you don't center it on what is happening around you and center it on what is happening inside of you instead. That it's better to work on yourself and your inner peace. I've learned that control is an illusion, and that the more that I try to control, the less control I actually have. I've learned that when I let something go, you take your power back and you take your energy back. And the minute that you take your energy back, you are now whole by yourself. I learned that my willingness to let go is based on love. I learned I needed to let go to receive more. And the more that I relax, the more that I attract. I learned that peace is not the absence of challenges. It is the absence of the need to control them. And the day I decided to let go of who I thought I needed to be was the day I discovered who I truly was. And on that day, I reclaimed my power. Today, I'm going to encourage you to do some things. Today, you're going to let them. You're going to focus on you and yours. You're not going to get caught up in what they're doing, what they're thinking or saying. You're going to let them have their opinions. Let them think the worst of you. Let them be who they want you to be. You're going to let them be who they want to be too. You're going to let them go and let yourself live. Just for today, try believing that everyone is doing their best that they can with what they have. Try to believe in that and see how that changes everything. And every time you notice yourself trying to control the outcomes of situations, gently redirect that energy towards accepting what is. Now, our next episode is going to be uploaded on, we are going into, I can't believe we're going into June, holy sheesh. It'll be the 4th of June. It's the first Wednesday of every month, per our normal. We haven't missed a day yet, so we won't miss that one. So June 4th And as normal, in order to find us on our socials, I'm again linking that down in the description box. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. And then if you want to connect with us, please do. We love hearing from our community. It means so much to us for your support. And we love talking with you guys. So we just wanted to make sure that we genuinely express that gratitude to you guys. So thank you for tuning in. And until our next episode, take care of yourself. Do something every day that you need that will help you to be happy, even if it's for 5 minutes or an hour, because you are important, you are worthy, and you deserve to be happy. Take care.